Okay, welcome to today's MSP Success Experts Corner. Allison Felber, Editor-in-Chief at MSP Success. And as we've got people piling in and seeing the numbers tick up, and up, whenever we have these experts corners, they're our most attended webinars. And so y'all love the experts we bring in, so we're happy to do that. If there's anyone that you particularly want or an area that you want to see us bring an expert in on, please go ahead and put it into the chat. We would love to hear what other experts you have. We've got, quite the little community and connections. And so being able to source an expert, that you guys want to hear from, we'd love to do that. So we're getting some hays in there. So Ralph
Hey,
says, hey,
hey, Ralph.
Rusty. Hi, Katie. Nice to see you. We got a lot of people still kind of poking in here. The participant thing is ticking back up. So for those who maybe jumped in a couple seconds later, Allison Felber, MSP Success Magazine, Editor-in-Chief there. And our expert today is Rusty Goodwin, an old friend of mine,
Yes,
for a couple years, of course, met through this community, but, him and I we got along real quick, real fast, and he's been my compliance expert from the get-go. And then, of course, now that leads directly into insurance. And so whenever I've got a question around that, or I've got, someone in our community who has a question about that, or I'm looking for a speaker about, insurance and, compliance and how do you sell that in our MSP space, Rusty's my guy. So excited to have him on today. Today, he's talking about something that, I'm kind of passionate about, and it's about joint ventures and how do you build relationships within your community, people who have services or businesses that complement what you do and work together in order to get more prospects, get more clients, boost sales, boost revenues. And this is one that I've been kind of pushing for. God, was it like 3 years ago, Rusty, where we really started to push this partnership,
yep,
become a partner, with your insurance, brokers, because, on the insurance side, he's saying, hey, partner with these MSPs. There is so
that's right.
much synergy there. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today, how to get new clients free and almost, not all the way, almost effortlessly, by partnering with insurance agents. So I'm seeing some people, coming in here, Todd, he says, hey, Rusty. Hey, from Toronto, Melbourne Beach in the house. Hello. Hey,
Oh,
Barb Dawson, Manish from,
my buddy Barbara. Hey,
yep,
Barbara.
we got Barb here. Cindy, we got a lot of people coming. So good to see some old friends in there. I got a question for you, and this to get you, kind of engaged in the chat, of course. What I was at DattoCon this past week. So if you were at DattoCon, go ahead, let me know if you were there, what you thought about it, or even just yep, I was there too. But big event, this week, obviously in the industry, we've got IT Nation next week. But let me know if you were there. And yeah, so with that, I want to go ahead and bring Rusty on again. Like I said, he is, my go-to person whenever it comes to, insurance and compliance and how you work with that. And so he's got a great presentation today. Hoping that, everybody's going to leave with, you will leave with at least one action item. I always tell people for every webinar you attend, for every training that you do, take notes, but put stars by the action items. And at the end of it, take 2 minutes to do a quick little debrief on your notes, look
Mm.
at the things that you starred and pick at least one, just one thing that you're going to do, from this webinar and from this training. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Rusty. If you have questions as we go through, put them into the Q&A. I try to keep track of the chat if you put your questions there, but as you can see, it's pretty active, so it's easy to get lost. Put them in the Q&A. Rusty wants us to be as interactive as possible, and so we'll make sure to get your questions answered there. So Rusty, I'm going to pass it over to you and
All
let you
right.
play.
Well, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. And I'm thankful that you're giving us an hour of your life, and I'll try to make it worth it for you today. Um, uh, I'm going to share my screen here with you. We'll just dive right in. You'll hear me for full disclaimer. You'll hear me use the term nerd today, and coming out from me, that is not a pejorative. When I say nerd, that is like me saying Superman. I wish I could be as smart as you guys are. Frankly, just the fact that I was able to share this screen on Zoom and not mess it up is a miracle. So you'll learn super quickly. I'm not a super tech, but I'm a different kind of nerd. I'm an insurance and governance and compliance nerd. And guys like us and folks like you can work together, and that's what we're talking about today. how to partner with folks like me to get new customers, and it's actually free to do. So I want to talk about the why behind this a little bit first, um, and tell you real quick about my team, because it's not just me here in Virginia, but you'll see my picture there on your right. We do have a super nerd on our staff. His name is Chris Judd. That is actually his real setup there. I just have a laptop, and that's what he has. So he's the chief of our cyber division. And then we have a contract nerd. His name is John Baston, that can work real hard to help our clients. So that's just a little bit about Midstate, a little bit about our team. And let's talk about first what your clients, the clients that you have as managed service providers, that you do that work for, let's just see what they're thinking. And if any of you are on here and you're internal IT, you're working for people who are pretty much thinking the same thing. So I want to, this will kind of give us the foundation or the why behind this joint venture being a good idea. So most of the time, your clients are already thinking or assuming that you're keeping all the promises that they've made. Um, we'll talk about those in a minute, but number one, they might be making promises that they have never told you about, but they're just assuming that you're keeping those promises. And they also, frankly, they don't understand the promises that they are making when they make them. That's why they need you guys, to watch over their cybersecurity, their tech, their compliance. But they spend every day agreeing to things by the way of contracts and insurance applications. So let's look at what some of those promises are. If you look at the left here, number one, they're making a lot of promises when they fill out that cyber liability insurance application. And can't see all your faces, but I'm sure when I say this, a bunch of your heads will nod. Many of you have been asked by your clients to help them fill out those applications, and that can be a real frustration because it's the first chance you get to see the promises they think you're making, but yet they haven't written a check yet for you to do those things that they just promised. So they're making promises to the federal government, and depending on their vertical or industry, there's a whole alphabet soup of federal regulations they're required to follow best practices in HIPAA, CMMC, NIST, COPA, even more recently, the FTC safeguards. If you have like car dealership clients and financial clients, they're making promises to the state, they're making promises to their vendors, they're making promises to their customers. And you're very fortunate if they bother to tell you about those and if they understand what they are. And from my vertical and my side of the desk, the insurance industry, some of those promises look like this. Hey, are you doing multi-factor authentication? Are you performing simulated phishing training? Do you have endpoint protection? Can you verify that you're backing up, X amount of times per month or per day or per year, however often that is? Do you do CSTAT, cybersecurity awareness training? How do you handle password management? Even simpler things like, do you do screensaver? What's your screensaver policy? All these kinds of promises that, depending on what application or contract your client's involved with, they're making. And it's important that you understand most of the time they assume that you're keeping those promises. The problem is a lot of times you don't know about them and you're not keeping them, or you've offered to keep them, but they don't want to pay you. And I feel that pain too from my side of the aisle. So another thing that your clients think is they think that insurance eliminates risk. Now, I had a very, very sophisticated business owner, actually in the industry, medical field. And I said to him, "Hey, are you worried about data breaches? I know you've got some requirements under HIPAA. I know you've got some requirements for data privacy. What are you going to do if you get a breach?" And he actually looked at me and he said, "I don't have to worry. I'm never going to get a breach because I have cyber insurance." And I said, all right, so does that mean because you have car insurance, you're never going to get in a wreck? What exactly do you mean by that? And he says, "No, of course I'm not going to. My car insurance doesn't keep me for a wreck. That's stupid." I'm like, "Yes, you're exactly right. That's stupid." And I said, "So why do you think it finally clicked with him?" I'm like, oh yeah, insurance doesn't eliminate any risk. So that shows you right there that when people think that way, they don't understand what they're paying for. They haven't really read that insurance contract. They don't know what that coverage means. The other thing it means is they don't know really what they're getting into. And this is where this partnership we're talking about can really become a value to you and your clients. And they don't understand that in addition to their cyber liability policies that they carry, a data breach or ransomware or some kind of privacy breach can also impact other insurance policies they're spending money for. So helping them understand that insurance is a beautiful vehicle for transferring risk to getting them out of trouble when they're having hard times, but it doesn't eliminate that risk. In fact, insurance doesn't even reduce the risk. Reducing that risk is your job and their job. So another thing your clients are thinking about or don't realize about their insurance is how much cyber liability has changed in the last even 5 years. So back a few years ago, for every dollar in premium that insurance companies would collect for cyber liability insurance, they were paying out almost 95 and a half cents between admin costs and claims. Now that was up a huge amount from 74.5% a few years earlier. So if I said to any of you, hey, let's start a business, but the most profit we can ever keep is 4.5 cents on every dollar, you'd probably tell me to pound sand and you're not interested in being in business with me. Well, that's the situation a few years ago that the insurance carriers who wrote cyber liability policies found themselves in, and they really had to do something about that. And what they've done has worked. Last year we were at about 60 in the 60% of claims and loss ratio. So that's really tightened up. But here's how they did it. Some insurance carriers just left that market. They stopped offering cyber liability insurance. Some excluded certain industries. I'm sure as an MSP, you've heard of several carriers that don't want you anymore. Yeah, we'll write the auto mechanics and the manufacturers, but we don't want you. We don't want to write cyber liability insurance for you. You're too dangerous. So they've excluded those business classes. You saw premiums really, really go up. Now, I can tell you, and Allison, remind me, I need to probably update this little slide because this is actually a piece of good news. um, I actually met with a half a dozen clients this year, this renewal season for cyber liability, and their premiums stayed flat, and a couple actually went down a little bit. So some of these adjustments that we've made are actually helping the market, and this is all good news for you, and I'll tell you why later. But for a while, premiums just increased a lot, or they were making it harder to file a claim, or reducing the amount they would pay out. I used to be able to sell somebody $15 million in cyber liability insurance, and today, about the most you can sell is about 2 or 3 million. And that's all they're willing to. All they're willing to risk. And they're really adjusting. Look at that last one. They're making serious changes to the terms and conditions in the insurance application. That means they are now requiring more and more things. If you've noticed, uh, cyber liability applications have gone from about 3 pages in some cases to about 40 pages, depending on how much you want and what business you're in, with all kinds of questions. Well, that's how the underwriters and the insurance carriers are mitigating their losses by requiring us as the end users to change our behaviors, change our tech stack, make sure we're more compliant with what the market requires. But this is stuff that your clients don't really know and don't understand. All they see is it's too expensive to buy the insurance. I don't want to do it. So another thing that your clients are thinking, you all, is, hey, I don't need this tech stack you're trying to sell me, or I don't need to invest in cybersecurity, or I don't need cyber liability insurance because it's never going to happen to us. We're too small to matter. Nobody wants my data. The other thing they think is, if it hasn't happened yet, it never will. Well, FBI statistics recently, years and years ago, it would say, hey, there are two types of entities: people who've been hacked and people who haven't. Now it's people who've been hacked and people who just don't know it yet. We've all been manipulated or hacked in some fashion. And for the folks that say we're too small to matter, nobody wants my data. Here's the problem with that. You're right. Nobody wants your data, but they know that you want your data. And that's why it's important to you. No one wants to keep your bratty kid when they kidnap them either, right? But they know you want your bratty kid. And so it doesn't matter how small your data is, it's important to you, even if it's not important to them. And because it's important to you, and because it's important to your client, that data becomes very valuable for them to hold hostage. So smaller company needs to understand every name they have in that database, every piece of information is highly valuable. And here's what the attack threat looks like every day. And Allison, when we first put some of these facts together, that first line there, it used to be about 250,000 new malware are made every day. Now it's 560,000, but still not almost 95% of all the attacks
Mhm.
come through emails, right? You popped on. You have a question?
I do have a question from someone, but let's get through some of these
Okay.
stats
All
here and
right.
then we'll bring it up.
So, and of all the attacks that happen worldwide, 43% of them are aimed at small businesses. So unless we have some super huge MSPs on this line, which if we do, God bless, but I don't think any of you are an MSP for Walmart or Comcast or Disney, right? If you are, hey, give a shout out, good for you. But if you're not, typically all of your customers fall into that 43% of cyber attacks. That they're after the very customers that you serve. And what stinks is 15% of small to medium sized businesses are the only ones that have good cyber hygiene. In fact, I read the stat for 2024, only 14% now think they have good cyber hygiene. And
Mm.
that's despite the best efforts of all of us, right? Because we're all risk managers. We just use different tools, right? You're managing risk just like I am. And I would imagine that if we took a poll, 100% of you would say you have clients who won't buy everything you're recommending. And you know what they need to be have a mature risk posture, yet they won't do it. And if they get somebody camped on their email, if they get a breach, if they get somebody hidden away, it takes over 200 days to realize that you've been breached. And then the other stat that's not on this screen is it takes about 70 days to fix it once you find out about it. And if we could even just reduce the detection time by 30 days, it would save us over $1 million. And here's the one that I know you all know is true. The problem with our organizations, the very people that we serve, 75% of that leadership of those organizations use applications that aren't approved by you or by the internal IT. So the very ones that won't spend the money are the same ones causing all the problems. And this is another thing that they don't realize.
Okay, so I've got a quick question here. If we're going to pause real
Yeah.
quick, a couple questions that came in. I've got Bob. He said, if an MSP validates proper endpoint protection, managed patching, MFA, training, and zero trust, are premiums lowered for customer insurance policy and cyber writer?
That's a beautiful question. And typically the answer to that question is yes. And did you say it was Bob that asked that question? Bob, I'll tell you how important this is becoming more and more. If you can't say yes to those questions, it won't be a matter of your premium being less or more. They won't even write you a policy. They'll decline to quote. Or if they will quote you, you're going to spend a fortune. I had an MSP reach out to me yesterday because a client did not want to put MFA in until they saw the difference in premium. And then all of a sudden, okay, we'll do it. But what is it, $5 a month for Duo for an end user? So okay, we can do that. So yeah. In fact, there are some insurance companies out there now that are offering companies and their internal IT departments or their managed service providers free tech stacks they can lay on top of what they're already doing to kind of give that layered effect and make them a harder target. And if you'll do that, now they're not trying to replace you. I know I hear some griping sometimes. The insurance companies are trying to compete with MSPs. I promise you, there's nobody in the world of insurance who wants to be an MSP. We don't want to do what you do any more than you want to do what we do. But they also don't want to write claims checks. So they're offering these tools. And if you accept those tools to add to your tech stack or delay on top of it, they'll give you a cheaper premium as well. So it's becoming super important to manage our software and hardware, and more important to manage our human behaviors to match the requirements of a mature risk posture. That's a great question.
Okay. I did have a couple people, DM, are we going to get a copy of, the presentation and the PowerPoint? So tomorrow we'll send you a link to the recording. Rusty, are you cool if I put the slides up there too for them?
For the MSP community?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
heck yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
If they're part of your gang, they can have whatever they want.
Yeah, okay. So we'll put the slides up there. So watch for an email tomorrow with a link to the recording. I know a lot of you guys asked about when we get in the recording. I do have a question here from Zachary too. What reports are some of these stats coming from? And where can I get a copy?
So IBM puts out a report every year. Verizon puts out a report every year. If you'll do a simple Google search, that stat about 207 days, that's out of IBM's 2024 report on cybersecurity. In fact, 2 years ago when they reported it, it was 179 days. So now they're getting sneakier. Now it's up to 207 days. So this is all real time stuff. It's very easily found. Um, and then also several of there's an insurance company called Socius that puts out a report. There are several other risk management type firms that constantly put out new numbers. So it's super easy. Um, as my mother would say, if you just use the Google,
The Googs.
the Google, you can find this stuff super easy. But I like the IBM and the Verizon reports. And one nice thing that IBM has started doing too is if you can dig deep enough, they're actually putting out some numbers now that are relative to companies that have under 10 million in revenue. Because what a lot of your small time CFOs will say and CEOs will say, oh, yeah, well, that's fine if you're Walmart, but what about me? Well, now they've got metrics out for companies that are under 10 million that are more relatable to who a lot of our clients are. So I appreciate those metrics that are put out on a regular basis.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll let you get right back to it. I think I've got all the questions for now answered.
Okay. Hey, I just got to tell you too, for having to deal with boring insurance, the fact that anybody wants these slides is such an ego boost. So thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Usually I have to bribe Allison and say I want to be followed up by an IRS agent and a funeral director just so I'm not so boring. So this is great. But here's where the real opportunity. I want you guys to take a look at the slide because you think this is bad news, but it's really actually good news. 68% of businesses don't have any form of cyber liability or data breach coverage. And to me, that just means we as risk managers, that's a huge universe that we can start attacking now for people who really need help. And 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 I don't think that has come down much. That stat's about 2.5 years old. Um, and despite my best efforts to sell as much cyber liability insurance as I can, I don't think I brought that percentage down a whole lot relative to our global population. So, but that's a great metric to remember because you have a huge universe now you can go attack. Here's another thing your clients are thinking that doing the things that you as MSPs are asking them to do or keeping the commitments that they're making in those insurance applications are just too disruptive. I'm too busy to take an extra step to use the VPN or to use MFA. I'm too important to be bothered. I find this a lot in the medical field. Doctors just don't want to be bothered. I'm the owner of this. I'm the head provider. I'm the chief medical. I'm this and that. Nobody can tell me what to do. Or I'm the founder of this big nonprofit, or I'm the founder of this big manufacturer. I'm gonna do what I want, and they're always the ones that are causing the trouble. So if they say that taking some extra precautions are too disruptive, we can remind them, hey, is this disruptive enough for you? If you've got over 50,000 records in your database, the average cost of the breach is 6.3 million. And I'll use some real numbers for you with one of my actual clients. They're a medical facility here where I live, and I talked to them about they had about $250,000 in cyber liability insurance. And I said to the CFO, I said, hey, Melissa, let's just pretend you got a massive breach and that you had some large donor who just loved you guys and was willing to pay all the expenses related to that breach, except for breach notification. All you had to pay for was notifying the folks in your database that you got a breach and taking those proper steps. That's the only check you had to write. Does that sound fair? She goes, yeah, let's play that game. I said, all right. So get out your calculator and take $150 and multiply it by the number of people in your database. How much money is that? And she took out her calculator and did the math, and it was $37 million. I said, how much insurance do you have? She said, I have $250,000. I said, do you think 37 million might be a bankrupting event for your facility? She went, oh my goodness. Yes, it would. So people don't really understand. And when I say breach notification, if you're not aware of what that all entails, it's not just telling the people their data got breached. Very often it's doing things like buying them LifeLock for a whole year. And there's a certain, depending on the number that gets breached, there's a certain amount of contacts you have to make with them, a certain different types of contact you have to make with them. Has to be done through legalese. It can cost a fortune. Um, and right now, the average cost for that record is about $176 per record. Um, Here's an interesting stat. We can skip on down. I'm not going to just sit here and read every slide to you, but look at that $133,000 average cost for ransomware. Now, Allison, I don't know if you remember, but when we first started talking about this about 4 years ago, that ransomware average was about just a little bit north of $3 million. And you can look at that and go, oh, that's good. It's really come down. But it's a scary reason why that number has come down so much. And that's because the bad guys realized very few people have $3.5 million. And the whole reason why they want to ransomware you and hold your stuff hostage is they want money. Well, they could ask me for $3.5 million till Jesus comes back. I'm never going to have it. I'm never going to have it. They're just going to have to keep my information. So what they've done, they've become more slick. They camp out in your QuickBooks file and your accounting software. They know how much money that you have, and they're going to ask you for just a little bit less than that. So the other metric that is true here is in 2020, about 37% of companies had experienced a ransomware attack. In 24, it's 67%. So it's almost double the amount of attacks, but they've asked for less money, but they are getting more money because they're asking for amounts of money they know that your client actually has. So that seems like it's a better metric, but to me, as a risk manager, it's a little bit more scary. Um, and then the real sad figure here is about 60% of small to medium sized businesses who get breached, who don't have the proper stuff in place, go out of business within 6 months. So if you have clients who are thinking that compliance and governance and security is too disruptive, you might want to share some of these items with them. And then here's one that's, I hope you think it's funny. That's why I put the smiley face on there. A lot of your clients just think they know everything. And I don't really have a cure for that other than firing them. I think they know everything. Just get rid of them. They're not worth being in your book of business. But here's the facts that we have around cyber insurance, right? Whatever promises your client is making, they have to be kept. Um, Insurance does not eliminate that risk for your client or for you. Um, like the FBI says, is a breach is going to happen. It will happen eventually. And governance and compliance to do what we as risk managers ask our clients to do doesn't have to be too disruptive, especially related to how disruptive an actual breach could be. And the final truth is no one knows everything, not even us, because the biggest truth here is all risk changes over time. So even if we know everything today, something's going to be different tomorrow that we don't know. And this is a big conversation to start having with your clients. Hey, we may have made, because I've had MSPs tell me before, hey, I don't want to go back to my client and tell them we need to do something different. They're going to think I made a mistake or I didn't know what I was doing. You do not have to be afraid of that. We may have made great decisions a year ago, but the threat landscape changes all the time. We need to make new decisions. We need to constantly monitor and adjust what we're doing from a risk management perspective. So that's not a conversation that you need to be afraid to have. In fact, you should be afraid if you're not having those conversations because you and your client are heading for trouble. So a real boon for you guys here. And if you guys want to send me flowers, I can send it on to the insurance company. Allison will give you my email address at the end. But insurance companies have really been the change agent for compliance and governance for years, much faster than the government can do it, much faster than our sectors can do it. This is actually good for you. It gives you something real that you can talk about with your clients and something they can understand. Here's a news flash for you. They don't even understand what you do. They don't know what encrypted firewalls are, encrypted hard drives. Most of them couldn't spell cryptocurrency, let alone know how to get any if they got a hack. They don't What you do scares them because they don't understand it, but they do understand risk. They do understand insurance and the ability to get it, and they understand the ability to have a claim paid or denied. So this is good news for you because the insurance companies now have they've brought things to light that we've been kind of slow to add. So here's what the opportunity is for you. I hope that gave you some context, but here's the real opportunity for you now. You now have something partnering with an insurance person that a new value, a new deliverable for your clients that your competitors don't have. And it's going to help you generate new leads in a universe that your competitors don't have access to. And it's a real differentiator for people who aren't your clients yet. And it's a new channel for monthly recurring revenue. And I don't know who else in this call, but I deal with a lot of MSPs around the country. Um, and they've already seen the value of being able to intelligently discuss insurance through a broker on their client's behalf. So the opportunity here is driving new clients. So if you like that idea, if you understand the context of why this is important, and you think, well, heck yeah, I'd love to have some new clients that I don't have to cold call and try to qualify, that are just warm referrals. Well, what do you do? Well, first, you got to position yourself as an expert. And just by learning some of these things and finding a good partner to work with, it's like I said, it's going to set you apart. It's going to have you offering something that's different, right? Most people who deal with their internal IT or their managed service provider don't feel like their managed service provider is a risk management expert or an insurance or governance expert. So if in some fashion you can bring that value to your client, now you're positioning yourself as different, as a standout from all your competitors. And the real truth here is your clients actually need it. This isn't some kind of manipulation or game you have to play to kind of add something onto their plate that they don't really need, but you want to sell it to them. This is the service they need because they don't know what they're doing. And it will make you more sticky. It'll make you harder to push out as the incumbent, as businesses around you try to prospect and steal your client away from you. Um, First of all, you find out what promises your client's making. This can be done through a review of their insurance policies, their customer and vendor contracts, even inside their employee manuals. What are they telling their employees about cybersecurity? What are they telling their employees about screensavers, about passwords, right? We want to find out in all facets what promises your clients are making around cybersecurity. And then you're going to help them understand, do this for your quarterly business reviews, or if it's a prospect doing your initial assessment. Do you really understand when you say, yes, I have MFA, or when you say, yes, we do backups, or yes, we do cybersecurity awareness training? Do you really understand what you've promised when you said that? And help them understand what they've just committed to, and help them understand that that they said it, they have to do it. Here's a thing about the insurance policy. When your client or you fill out that application, everything you say yes to in that application is now a promise that you just made to that insurance company. And if you don't do what you said you've done in that application and you go to file a claim, they'll either underpay it or won't pay it at all. So it's important that your clients understand what they're saying yes to. Then partner with an insurance broker. There is a difference. Yeah, Allison, I see you popping up. What we got?
Yep. I've got a couple questions. We can either go through this, or I
No,
can
let's
ask them
let's
right
do it.
now.
I've been talking enough. Let's see what if somebody else
All
wants to know.
right, okay, I got a couple here. So you're just about to talk about partnering with an insurance broker. I got Jay here. Are you aware of any insurance companies operating in the UK that would like to work with some local MSPs?
So I am not aware of one off the top of my head, but and I can talk about this now. You see that little logo at the bottom of my picture that says Beyond? I'm part of a network. This is the Beyond Insurance Global Network, and we're about 150 agencies strong. And we do have partnerships with brokerages in Canada, in the UK. And so if you'll just connect with me after and tell me where you are, I'll just reach out to our network and say, hey, who do we got? Who do we got that can help you out? So the answer is yes, I do, but no, I don't know who they are. But I can find it for you.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
and Jay, we'll get he'll put a slide up with his information at the end for anybody who has questions. So okay. Matt right here, he said it's a major point. They don't understand what we do. I'm sorry, clients don't understand what we do. Sometimes their qualifying questions pose technical scenarios that are oddly worded. Let's see. How can we successfully translate what we do to their stated controls when they're weird? So I'm thinking that they actually might be the insurance broker. If you want to,
so do they understand what the insurance company is asking about their stated controls?
yeah, if you want to clarify that a little bit, Matt, I'll make sure we come right back to that. But yeah, clarify kind of who your they is in there. But I've got another anonymous attendee. So anonymous, whoever you
Ah,
are, please help me understand what I can bring to the insurance broker to work with my MSP versus another MSP. So how is this a value add?
okay. So and actually, this is the spot that we're at here. So that's a perfect segue. So one of the headaches that I have clients in about 40 or 45 states. I think in between 40 and 45 states. I've got clients all over the country. And as their risk manager, I'm working through these applications and through these insurance policies, watching them make these promises. And I know that they're not doing them. And I have to tell them, hey, I'm not going to write this policy for you until I know you're behaving a certain way or adopting these best practices. And I've got to find a good MSP that can help them out. See, every insurance broker has customers that will need people like you. And every MSP has customers that need a good insurance broker. And so you can kind of feed each other. Now you're going to have to find a broker, not an agent. And there's nothing wrong with agents. There's nothing wrong with agents at all. But typically, an agent only sells for one brand. So think of a State Farm agent or an Allstate agent or a Farmer's agent, right? They only have one carrier. If you have a broker, they have a lot of different insurance companies they work with, so they can work with you and your clients to find the best fit for them, and they'll have a lot of options for your clients. And typically, brokers have a lot of commercial customers, farmers and all states, so that most of their business are personal lines or very small businesses. So what you want is a broker who can bring you clients that can really add to your annual and monthly recurring revenue. I'm constantly referring clients to good managed service providers because I know they need to improve their security posture. And like I said a few minutes ago, I don't want to be an MSP. I want to be an insurance guy. And there's guys all over the country like me who know what their clients need, but don't know how to get it to them. So if you can search in your area, uh, and find a good broker or find a couple of good brokers that you guys can feed each other, it can be a real win-win for both of you. And so you'll have clients that become their customers. They'll have clients that become your customers, and it's cost you nothing except meeting with that guy a couple times at a Starbucks and talking about your customer base. Um, so find a good one. And like I said, if you want to reach out, I deal with insurance brokers all over the country. We can help find some folks in your area. Again, I've got customers all over the country. I might need you, so we can certainly have a chat. Um, and then once you've worked with that broker to help review the policies, the contracts, the employee manuals, all the things that you guys broke as risk managers say, here's how our clients can improve their risk posture. Now you're going to educate your clients. Say, all right, here's our treatment plan. Here's our plan of action and milestones for helping you improve your risk posture, becoming a harder target, keeping those premiums down. Back to the question that was asked before, removing the volatility of those insurance renewal premiums, and having a healthier organization going forward. And you're going to give them the tools they need, because now that they understand the context of the risk, convincing them to purchase MFA or a password manager or these various other things is not going to be as hard, because now they understand that the risks that they face relative to their ownership of those organizations. And again, those businesses are their golden goose. They don't want to go out of business. They don't even want to be shut down for a little while. What does it cost one of your customers to be shut down for 2 or 3 days? A lot of money. So this is a way that you could work with other risk managers to give them the tools that they need. It also, you all, gives you a great chance to brag about what you're already doing and to show them how, all the steps that you've taken. Back to that question about, they don't always understand what you're asking them to do. Well, this is where a guy like me, I'm a simpleton. I'm not a nerd. I can help you put what you're doing into a language a normal CEO. In fact, what does Robin call me, Allison? The Rosetta Stone between nerds and normals.
Yeah, yeah.
So that insurance broker can be your Rosetta Stone to help your clients understand what it is that you're doing. It's, your problem is, you guys, you're just so freaking smart. And even very intelligent and sophisticated CEOs and CFOs are intimidated by you. I mean, I got to be honest, there's several hundred of you on here. I know I'm the dumbest one on the call. I'm a little intimidated. I can't see any of you. I don't know anything about you, but I know I can barely work my iPhone, and you guys would make fun of me if you ever saw me working my tech. So imagine a CEO who feels just like that, trying to understand what you're doing, right? And now you've given them real power, real ability to engage their entire organizations in becoming more cyber secure by giving them that plan for readiness. And this really doesn't belong in here. I just think it's a funny slide. If you look at the path between claim and payout, if you're doing all the right things, it's an easy path. And if you look at the bottom one where you're not doing the right things, not only is it a complicated path, it never gets to the payout. So I just thought that was a great visual. If I'm the only one who thinks it's funny, I don't care. I'm leaving it in there because I laugh at it every time. And then the biggest win here is you're protecting your client. Um, a more mature risk posture has to be achieved, like I call it a three-legged stool: security, compliance, and insurance. And you guys know this, but your customers don't. Security and compliance are not the same thing. Security is building a very complicated combination lock in your bank vault door that nobody can crack. That's security. Compliance is your bank employees remembering to shut the vault door when they leave the bank. Because if they're not compliant with the tools you put in place, the tools don't do any good. And then insurance is what comes in at the end if it goes to hell in a handbasket and helps keep your client from going out of business by transferring that financial risk to an insurance carrier. And 9 times out of 10, when we go through this process, what I see with you guys as MSPs is you wind up instantly getting more monthly recurring revenue from your clients because they finally understand why they need to purchase those last few things from you that chances are you've been asking them to do for quite some time and they didn't want to spend the money. And again, just the cost of a little bit of time, meeting a few people, having a cup of coffee with an insurance broker. Um, and look at this, perfect timing, Allison. You're at Q&A right here, so we can fire away on any others we've got.
Yeah, and if actually while we're doing some of these questions that I've got here, if you want to bring your slides back up with your contact information,
There you
a
go.
couple people were asking about that. One person did ask, where are you located, Rusty?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm in Virginia.
There
I'm
you
in the
go.
beautiful state of Virginia.
Okay, love it. But you
Yeah.
work with MSPs all over the country.
I do. It's nice. I get to travel a lot. I think we're in about 40. I have insurance clients in about 45 states, but I'm working with MSPs in about 38 states through MSP Success and TMT. So yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So I did get a little bit more clarification from Matt on his question. That was the one about, they don't understand what we do. Sometimes their qualifying questions pose technical scenarios that are oddly worded. He said, meaning the insurance companies and the carrier, when applying for a policy, the large questionnaire asks questions sometimes that indicate they don't really know what technically happens. So it's a control from the insurance company that sometimes doesn't match real world tech.
Oh,
Uh,
you're 100% right. In fact, I dealt with that this morning. I'll give you a perfect example. And you got to remember, these are number crunchers asking these questions. So if your expectation is they're going to understand everything you do, you'll be disappointed 100% of the time, right? They're doing so. Here's one that I literally the timing's perfect. I dealt with this morning. I had an MSP reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm using Zero Trust and MFA with a client, and the insurance company's pushing back saying that they don't really like Zero Trust that much." Well, that seems ridiculous, doesn't it? If you're using Zero Trust and MFA. So I just reached out to the underwriter, and again, here's what the insurance companies care about more than your software and hardware. They care about human behaviors because 95% of all breaches are caused by humans. So here's the problem that they have with Zero Trust, even though a combination of Zero Trust and MFA is a beautiful combination. And Matt, I'm actually saying this to prove your point, not to disagree with you. So hang in there with me. Um, Here's why they don't like Zero Trust. It depends on too many decisions that human beings are making around what's allowed and what's not. With MFA, it treats everybody equally, right? With MFA, you either get the secondary authentication or you don't. But Zero Trust, they can't force you to handle Zero Trust the same way across all organizations. And they don't like that because that's unknown. So you're right. They don't understand it. But what they do understand is if Matt was making universal decision for every single one of the people who had insurance, they could control how Zero Trust is used. But even though Zero Trust is powerful, they can't control how every organization is going to use that. They know exactly how multi-factor authentication works. So that's why if you're partnering with a smart ass like me, um, I can reach out to the underwriter and put it in terms they understand what you as the MSP are doing. And then they go, "Oh, I didn't really look at it like that. Sure, we'll write it." But you're right, Matt. They don't understand what you do. In fact, you guys are the only ones that understand what you do. I talk like I understand what you do, but most of it I'm just nodding my head like a bobblehead and faking my way through it because literally like Zoom is my greatest technological achievement, using it without messing up. Right. So you're right. And that's another value of partnering with an insurance person, because the underwriters don't speak your language, but you don't speak their language. And those of us who are willing to kind of live in both worlds, we can help bridge that gap. So you're just kind of laying out there why a relationship like this could be super valuable for you. But you're 100% right. The underwriters don't know jack.
Yeah.
They don't.
Okay. Next question here from either our same anonymous attendee or a new anonymous attendee. Is it standard practice to provide a kickback to these brokers when a deal closes, or is the reciprocation of business enough to make the partnership worthwhile?
I don't do kickbacks either way. Um, and number one, I think we're just doing business together because we share values, and if we're both doing our part, we both get business, and that's good enough. Number two, even if I wanted to, um, insurance brokers have to be really careful about a little topic called rebating. And we can't say, hey, you know, give me your insurance or give me your client's insurance, and I'll give you part of this commission. You'd have to get licensed. There's a whole lot of Bureau of Insurance regulations that would, prohibit us from acting that way. Um, I've found that, I deal with 30 or 40 of you all already, and there's plenty of business handed back and forth that we're all happy with the arrangement. And I think too that I think there's a lot of power. Allison, let's pretend you're the MSP and I'm the broker, and I'm saying to my client, "Hey, I want you to meet a great MSP. Her name's Allison. And by the way, I have no financial stake in this deal. I just want to bring you the best answer."
Yeah.
It takes away of fox guarding the hen house kind of mentality. I just want to match up clients with an MSP that shares their values, maybe is an expert in their field. Maybe I know an MSP that deals heavily in medical and another one that deals heavily with CMMC for Department of Defense. I might refer a different one depending on the vertical. And if I've got money in my pocket tied to that, then I could be tempted to be conflicted and not make the best recommendation. So you might find other ones who want to be remunerated. I'm not one of them. And you can deal with that as you see fit moving down the road.
Okay. I'm going to bounce around a little bit between Q&A and chat because some of these are kind of good to go with each other. So
Sure.
Todd put in here, do you have any lead magnets or campaigns you suggest to partner with brokers?
Allison, I think you guys did a campaign internally, right? For that.
Yeah, so if you're a TMT member, I think Accelerators Club and above, there is a joint venture campaign. So if you go to the TMT dashboard and search joint venture, you'll find some of those. Now, I will tell you, what TMT teaches on the joint venture side is that this is going to be when you're trying to build these relationships, whether it's with an insurance broker or a CPA or an attorney, any of these JVs where you guys can pass leads and business back and forth. This is going to be a very individualized, personalized, connection request, relationship that you're trying to build. So, it's not a mass email that gets sent or a mailer that gets dropped. It's going to be very personal, one to one. So the campaigns that you'll see on there, are ones that are meant to be, highly, highly personalized.
But a good way to start too, and it keeps it somewhat organic and a little bit more genuine, like Allison's kind of alluding to, is you can just say to all your clients, "Hey, we've got a new value add for you. We'll review your cyber liability insurance policy for you and make sure that number one, we as your MSP are keeping those promises. But number two, make sure it addresses your needs. We work with a great insurance broker. He's offered to review that for you, and it's no charge,
Yeah.
right? Because all you're doing is those recommendations based on that insurance application and insurance policy that you've just reviewed, or basically when you come back with that summary, it's a proposal for you.
Yep.
So that it could just be, and I guarantee you, a huge majority of your clients are frustrated filling out those applications. They would welcome the help.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it was Will Nobles who actually, one quarter made it a part of their QBRs. Part of what we're doing
Yeah.
this quarter is let's take a look at your policy, make sure we're
Yep.
doing what you say you're doing.
Yeah. I looked through about 30 this week already for people.
Okay, so talking about, marketing and that type of a thing, Carl had asked, is this a good strategy for an MSP who is just starting out trying to acquire new customers, or is this for an MSP with a customer base to sell to?
Wow, that's interesting. I will tell you this, if you're new, it certainly sets you apart from anybody who's already out there in business. I would just make sure that you really have a solid partner, and that, if Alice, let's say you're that new business owner, right? And I come back with a lot of recommendations that they got to do, you better be prepared that you can actually do those things for that customer, or you're going to look dumb, right? So I would make sure that you have your tool stack in place, so that whatever recommendations come by review of those policies, employee manuals, and vendor contracts, you, because you want to be the answer to those problems. You don't want to say, and I'm being ridiculous to make the point, you don't want to say you need MDR, um, or MDM, and the guy goes, "Great, can you do it for me?" Well, almost. We'll be ready in a couple weeks to do that, right? You just you want to be ready to be the answer when you come back with that summary. So,
Sure, of course. Okay. I've got one here, whoops, from, let's see, this is Richard. I'm assuming that the broker brings us into the client for some type of an assessment. Do you propose, or maybe do you see, what do you see more often, that the MSP provide the assessment at a no charge consult, or is there some standard as a chargeable service? What do you see more often, Rusty?
simply reviewing the insurance policy does not take a broker a lot of time to do it. And here's the benefit that we get as the broker. We really see if their current broker is any good or not by how that policy is structured. So I don't ever charge anybody for looking at their policies, because it gives me insight. And if it's a great policy, I might learn something from the way that broker has constructed it that helps my business. So I win either way. If I'm calling back that client and going, "You need to send your broker a bouquet of flowers. He's awesome," right? I don't get that as a customer, but I've learned something, and I've given a value add to that MSP, and that customer has seen it's not all about just getting business. It's really about providing that review. Now, if you want to charge for that as the MSP, you go right ahead. But I'm telling you, they're gonna be some things that a good broker finds that that client is not currently doing, that they're gonna need you to do for them,
Mhm.
and
And
that's how you make your money.
if the broker is bringing the MSP in, so the broker's saying, "Hey, I've got somebody who I think needs, some work on their IT so that we can write them this policy."
Oh, you
Would
charge
you
them.
what?
You charge them.
Charge them. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's a new customer. Don't work for free.
There you go. Okay, I do want, so Melanie, I know she's, saying Rusty is awesome, but she's got a fact rather than a question. But I just wanted to let everyone know how helpful Rusty has been for us, and I highly recommend partnering with him. This is Melanie Surya. He's
Oh, Melanie,
genuine.
hey,
Yeah, he's genuine and not
I'll send you the
salesy.
20 bucks after the call.
He really wants to help. And if he happens to benefit from it, then it's just a bonus. So I just want to make sure you heard that
Oh,
as
that's sweet.
right.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Melanie.
So Caitlin has a question here. What type of language, so you as a broker, what
Yeah.
type of language should you use when you're approaching the broker about making a relationship? What are some of the things that you're wanting to hear that will kind of get you excited about this relationship?
I think I would like to hear the same kind of language that you guys would like to hear. Hey, Melanie, I'll shout out to you. Hey, Melanie, I've got about a half a dozen or so clients, maybe more, that I think could really use you as an MSP. Um, can I sit down and talk with you about them? And it might turn out that you have some clients that can use me. I think we could really help each other bring value add to our client bases. And I'm looking for a real good partner. I'm not looking for 10 insurance agents, or I'm not looking for 10 MSPs. I'm looking for one. I want to make sure we share the same values. But if you're talking to an insurance broker and you say you have a couple dozen clients that might need them, they're going to listen to you till Jesus comes back,
Mm.
because all they need is lead. None of us likes the hardest part is finding a lead that will actually want to. I mean, you guys have it made. People would, as much as people don't want to talk about tech, they want to talk about insurance even less. They hate me way more than they hate you. So if I can find somebody who actually wants to talk to me, that's gold, right? So if you got and here's the fact of the matter is, I guarantee you, even if they haven't told you, just as your clients are intimidated by the tech stuff that you talk about, they're also intimidated by their insurance contracts. They have no idea what they just signed. So if you can find a person who's willing to sit down and explain it to them, the win I'm going to get is, now I'm positioning myself as an expert to your clients, and you're positioning yourself as an expert to my clients. And the normal world doesn't usually work that way. It's usually going to a business networking meeting, and I was one of the other day where I think they, they want, if they even hand you a lead, they want $25, but all they do is they just bring you a bunch of leads to get the $25. You have no idea if the person actually wants to talk to you or not. This is a way to do real organic growth where the people are interested in talking to you. So I would just be super genuine about it. Hey, let's try this out. And you can even say, hey, for 6 months, it's the sucks. We don't have to do it anymore, but it could be free leads for both of us.
Mhm.
Um, Producers are all about finding new people to talk to. So
Yeah. Okay, last question, because I know you have a hard stop here in a little bit, but this is Phillip. So we're performing a HIPAA assessment for a medical group. Once we complete it and have findings, is this a good time to recommend a cyber policy review? What if they have insurance already?
oh, even if they already have it, here's the deal. Here's the reason why you as the MSP want to see it. And it's not even about selling them different insurance or getting them to a different broker, even though that happens real often. You want to see what promises they made inside that cyber liability policy that you have to keep. You should be reviewing it for your own sanity, even if your client doesn't give a crap. You want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. That's your reason for wanting to look at it. And then you come back and say, hey, you said yes to endpoint protection, but you're really not doing it. I know we've talked about that a few times. You either want to, you might want to say no on that application. Your premium will be higher, but at least you're telling the truth. That way your claim gets paid, or let us do endpoint protection for you. Right? It's a gauge check for you. You're the one that they think are keeping all those promises. It's to your benefit to see that policy. Even if you never show it to an insurance guy, you want to get your eyes on it anyway. But the bonus is now you can have an insurance nerd take a look at it and tell you if they're in trouble or not. And that's a value add for them. So,
All right. Rusty, thank you so much. I know every time we have you on, people just get a wealth of knowledge from it. Any final words, that we have from you, Rusty?
yes, just don't be afraid to go have this conversation with your clients. They need it. And it- don't be afraid of looking bad if there's things that you need to add to their stack or strategies that you need to change, because everything changes every day. You need to do your clients a favor and confront this with them, but use as normal, not nerd language as you possibly can. And if you can't do it, bring somebody like me in there who can help you translate, because your customers really, really need it, and it'll make you more money.
Yeah, love it. Okay, well, lots of compliments here at the end, saying how great this was, Rusty. Always
Oh,
appreciate you
I'm so
coming
glad.
on. And happy Halloween.
Yeah, I'm running a 5K Saturday dressed like a pirate, so we'll see how that goes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next
All right,
time.
all right. Bye bye.